the seven seals. Many Christians mistakenly believe that the seals are judgments, but in reality, they're events that lead up to the wrath of God. Today we're going to go slowly through each seal, and we're going to see what the events are before God pours out his wrath.
So the question is, what are seals? Because in this context, because seals could be used in a variety of ways. Now, we read earlier in Revelation 5 that the book was given to the Lamb by the Father, and it had 7 seals. So what is this book, and why is it sealed? Well, when we go to Daniel chapter 12, we read in verse 8, "And I, Daniel, heard, but I understood not." In other words, God gave Daniel visions and dreams, but he couldn't understand. Then said I, Daniel, this is what Daniel said, "O Lord, what shall be the end of these things?" And he said, "Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end." So that book that Jesus had, that the Father gave to him, that's the book that Daniel saw. But Daniel, in his time, that book was sealed and closed. So he couldn't get any understanding about what was in those visions and dreams he received. But we read in Daniel 12 verse 4, a few verses earlier, "But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." So in other words, the word's always there, the visions and dreams are always there, but the understanding's not there. But towards the end, the players and the system that's being set up will be more evident. And that's what Jesus is going to describe in Revelation 6. So we continue reading. "And I saw, and behold, a white horse." So this is the first seal. "And he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer." So the question is, who is the rider on the white horse? Well, this is the Antichrist. He's mimicking Jesus, because we read in Revelation 19, verse 11 through 12, "And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse." So this is Jesus coming. So Jesus riding on a white horse, and then it says, "His eyes were as a flame of fire. On his head, look, on his head were many crowns." And then we read in verse 15, "And out of his mouth goes a sharp sword." So we see in the first seal, there's a rider on a white horse, but he only has one crown. When Jesus comes, he's going to have many crowns. When Jesus comes, he's going to have a sword that comes out of his mouth. This guy has a bow. So in other words, he's like a cheap imitation of Jesus Christ. But he's trying to deceive people. Verse 3, "And he opened the second seal, and I heard the second beast say, Come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword." So who is this beast? Now remember, the seals are things that are going to happen in the future. When we turn to Revelation 13, verse 7, we read this. "And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations." Notice it says that it was given unto him to make war with the saints. So when we read the seals, these actions that are being taken are against the saints. And here the second beast is given a large sword, and with it he's going to try to kill the saints of God. Now let's go on to the third seal in verse 5. "And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And behold, and I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. So what is this horse rider about? This is where the mark of the beast system is set up. It says a measure of wheat for a penny and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And we read in Revelations 13, this is what is referencing. It says this in verse 16. And he, talking about the beast, causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So this is where the beast system is being set up. And we read, hurt not, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. Now what does that mean with the beast system? Well, the oil and the wine could represent, the oil could represent the Holy Spirit, the wine could represent the blood. But remember, this has to do with the Antichrist beast system. The wine in the Bible is used for celebration, for mirth, for pleasure. Oil is used for beauty. We read in Proverbs 21:17, he that loveth pleasure shall be a poor man. Now listen to this. He that loveth wine and oil shall not be rich. So in other words, when the third beast comes, there's going to be a rationing of food, because it says a measure of wheat for a penny. So in other words, wheat is bread. So in order for you to get bread, you gotta have a day's wage. So for you to eat, you gotta pay a day's wage for a piece of bread. But it said, do not touch the oil and the wine. So in other words, when the beast system is set up, there's going to be severe restriction on food, but you still will have your wine and you still will have your oil. In other words, you still will have your pleasure, and you still will. It's like during the COVID-19. They said that during that time that Pornhub, for example, had the most hits in their sites. So people were seeking these earthly pleasures while there was restrictions. But during the beast system, that would be even more so. If you have doubts about the Bible, this beast system being set up is amazing. Who would have, because when we read the Bible, you read about a mark in the hand, a mark on the forehead, and some people mock and laugh. But now that we hear reports about how it's being set up, that right there should give you enough faith that this book is true. And with that, I want to show a video to explain how this mark is being set up even before our eyes at this time.
Co-founder Bill Gates is going to be stepping down from the company's board of directors.
As the pandemic swept across the earth, Gates has been elevated to a status of supreme authority for the pandemic crisis, appearing all over mass media to share his views and recommendations. On March 18th, Bill Gates took part in an AMA, Ask Me Anything, on Reddit titled, I'm Bill Gates, co-chair of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Ask me anything about COVID-19. One question in particular produced an answer by Bill Gates that revealed a plan for a digital certificate to keep track of who got vaccinated. A Reddit user named Remote Controlled User asked this question: what changes are we going to have to make to how businesses operate to maintain our economy while providing social distancing? Bill Gates' answer? The question of which businesses should keep going is tricky. Certainly food supply and the health system. We still need water, electricity, and the internet. Supply chains for critical things need to be maintained. Countries are still figuring out what to keep running. Eventually, we will have some digital certificates to show who has recovered or been tested recently, or when we have a vaccine, who has received it. While most of Gates' answers were received with praise, this one raised lots of eyebrows. The most upvoted reply highlights the similarities between Gates' solution and the mark of the beast in the Bible.
Also it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark, that is the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666.
Before I continue, let me mention that there is a debate among Christians and Bible scholars as to what the mark of the beast really is. Some believe it's technology such as a microchip that will grant you an identity within the beast system, allowing you to participate in basic societal functions like the right to buy and sell goods. Others believe the mark to be metaphorical, and receiving the mark on your forehead is akin to following the counterfeit system of worship with your mind, while the mark on the right hand is analogous to indicating the false god you serve with your actions. Okay, so this idea of a digital certificate to store medical information, including vaccines received, is currently in the works as part of a massive project called ID 2020, which is backed by the United Nations, the Rockefeller Foundation, and Microsoft. ID 2020 is developing a digital identification system that will store a wealth of personal information and will transcend the barriers of national governments. The official website of ID 2020 states that a global digital identity is necessary to keep track of refugees and ID-less people in developing countries. Of course, people in developed countries will be ID'd as well. The website states, "We need to get digital ID right. Unfortunately, current models of digital ID do not meet everyone's needs. They are generally archaic, insecure, lacking adequate privacy protection, and for over 1 billion people worldwide, unavailable. Everyone should have access to a digital ID that enables them to prove who they are across institutional and international borders and across time, while giving them control over how their personal information is collected, used, and shared." In an article published by ID 2020 in 2018, vaccines are the perfect way to introduce digital identity to the world, especially infants. Appropriately titled, "Immunization, an Entry Point for Digital Identity," the article states, "Because immunization is conducted in infancy, providing children with a digital child health card could give them a unique portable digital identity early in life. And as children grow, their digital child health card can be used to access secondary services such as primary school or ease the process of obtaining alternative credentials. Effectively, the child health card becomes the first step in establishing a legal, broadly recognized identity." In order to enable digital identity at scale, we need to identify and leverage many entry points. Immunization service delivery presents a tremendous opportunity to provide children with a durable, portable, and secure digital identity early in life, enabling access to a wider range of social services while also improving access to the health interventions all children need and deserve. We're proud to partner with Gavi and excited to see the innovations proposed as part of the Infuse Challenge. To all innovators, the deadline to apply for the program is April 10th, so please get those applications in. Infuse. It doesn't get any better than that. What's the definition of infuse? Number 4 here says, to administer or inject. So basically, according to ID 2020, vaccinations are the perfect opportunity to introduce a digital ID that would store the medical history of each individual. This identity would also be used to grant access to basic rights and services. Another form of embedded vaccine identification that Bill Gates has been funding research on is the quantum dot tattoo. In December 2019, a group of researchers at MIT published a study in Science Translational Medicine about the use of quantum dot tattoos to identify people who received a vaccine. An article in Futurism titled, "An Invisible Quantum Dot Tattoo Could Be Used to ID Vaccinated Kids," reviewed this study. For the people overseeing nationwide vaccination initiatives in developing countries, keeping track of who had which vaccinations and when can be a tough task. But researchers from MIT might have a solution. They've created an ink that can be safely embedded in the skin alongside the vaccine itself, and it's only visible using a special smartphone camera app and filter. In other words, they've found a covert way to embed the record of a vaccination directly in the patient's skin rather than documenting it electronically or on paper, and their low-risk tracking system could greatly simplify the process of maintaining accurate vaccine records, especially on a larger scale. The invisible tattoo accompanying the vaccine is a pattern made up of minuscule quantum dots, tiny semiconducting crystals that reflect light, that glow under infrared light. The pattern and vaccine gets delivered into the skin using high-tech dissolvable microneedles made of a mixture of polymers and sugar. It's possible someday that this invisible approach could create new possibilities for data storage, biosensing, and vaccine applications that could improve how medical care is provided, particularly in the developing world.
And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, "Come and see." Now we're up to the fourth horseman. And I looked, in verse 8, and I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth. Now this is what they're going to do. To kill with the sword, like the second beast, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the field. So this horseman has more authority, but remember, the war is against the saints. So now he has more authority to cause hunger, to kill with the beasts of the field, beasts of the earth. This is what the people that are going to go through the tribulation are going to endure. So if we believe, if we're pre-mill people, we got to believe that this is what we're going to endure, and this is what the church is not preparing the saints of God. So this is what the fourth beast is going to set up. And now in verse 9, and when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. So now John sees a vision of souls under altar that were slain for the word of God. So anyone who says that these seals is a vision, that is judgment, that these are judgments, they're wrong. Because right here it says that these souls were killed. So unless God is killing the souls of his saints, that would make no sense. These seals are prophetic. But this is what they cried out in verse 10. And they cried out with a loud voice, saying, "How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth?" This is their cry. That means, when you really analyze this statement, these people have been abused. And if we read, remember the fourth horse? It said that it was given to him a large sword, and to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with the beasts of the field. These people in the fifth seal, those are the ones that endured all that. And then it says this in verse 11. And white robes are given unto every one of them. Remember that verse. And white robes were given unto every one of them, because it's going to be very important in the next chapter. And it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, till their fellow servants also and their brethren should be killed as they were, should be fulfilled. So this thing is going to go on until a certain number are killed. But remember the white robes as we keep reading. And I beheld when he opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. So here, this is where the sun was dark and the moon turned to blood. I hear these people always talking about the blood moon. Oh man, I heard there's going to be a blood moon. That's not what it's talking about. When Jesus talked about, and the Bible talks about, the sun is dark and the moon will not give its light, it's talking about when Jesus comes. It's not talking about seeing a moon that has a red hue. When that comes, it's time up. Verse 15, and the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man, hid themselves in the dens in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, now listen to what they said, fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? So notice, right now is the wrath of God. After the sixth seal, the people recognize the wrath of God is going to come. So anyone, again, saying that the seals have to do with the wrath of God? No. The sixth seal is when the people anticipate that the wrath of God is going to be poured out. Now let's go to chapter 7. And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. So everything is still, right now there's no movement in the sky. There's no wind. And I saw another angel descending from the east, now look at this, having the seal of the living God. So remember the seal. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea. So these 4 angels, their role is to hurt the earth and the sea. But look what the angel told them, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. Sometimes we read things and we don't really understand the meaning. It said that the 4 angels were determined to hurt the earth and the land and the sea, but here they're being prevented. But the question is why they're being prevented. Because the people, the saints that were fleeing the beast system, this is where they're residing. They have to flee, like Jesus said, flee to the hills. They're fleeing to the trees, to the mountain. What is it? Hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees. So that's where they're escaping to. And that's why God's saying, don't hurt those things, because they're there. But then it says, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. So what does it mean to be sealed? It means that they were slain for the testimony of Jesus. And we read in verse 4, and I heard the number of them which were sealed. Now listen to that word, sealed, past tense. And it's going to describe the Israelites. It's going to describe 12 of the 13 tribes. The tribe of Dan is missing. Some speculate because there was an idol in Dan, so God excluded them. But here, the tribe of Dan is missing. But notice, they are sealed. The verse before said, the angel said that until we have sealed the servants of our God in our foreheads. These 144,000 Israelites are sealed. But now, this is a verse that preacher people abuse. And I'm going to debunk what they're teaching. After this, I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number. So it's not 144,000. Of all nations and kindreds, peoples, tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes and palm in their hands. So that now the question is, who are these people? I mean, just plain reading, it should be Gentiles. But there are some who teach that these are Jews who are saved through the tribulation. They teach that the Gentiles have been taken up, and now the only ones left besides unbelieving Gentiles are the Jews. But the problem is, these cannot be Jews. Because there are four titles that are listed here. It said, out of every nations and kindreds and people and tongues. Yes, the Jews were in many nations. So you could say the Jews are from different nations. The Jews did speak different languages, like in the book of Acts, in Pentecost. They spoke different languages. But it said kindred, which is another word for tribe. The tribes of Israel is only 13. So, how is it that they're a tribe that cannot be numbered? But it also says people. Now, what's a people? Because it's not a nation. If we turn to Genesis 25, verse 23, we read about the birth of, when God told Rebekah that Esau and Jacob were going to be born. Now, look what he told Rebekah about these two sons, these twins. Genesis 25, 23. And the Lord said unto her, Rebekah, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. So he told her there's 2 nations. So these twins are 2 different nations, Israel and Edom. But then he said that they're 2 different people. what's a people? A people is the customs, traditions that a certain group practice that distinguish them from other people. For example, in the modern age, the Kurds are a people. The Kurds are not a nation. There's Kurds in Iraq, Syria, Turkey, but they're not a nation. They're a people. Another example, when Israel was separated after Solomon died, there was the northern kingdom and the kingdom of Judah. They were two different nations, but they were the same people. And furthermore, in Revelation 5, verse 9, when they started giving praise to the Lamb, they said this, and they sung a new song, saying, Thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof, for thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to God by thy blood out of, look at this, out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation. So if somebody's going to be consistent, then they got to say that those are Jews too. And if they're not consistent, they say those are Gentiles, but this is Jews, then they got to distinguish between the two groups. They cannot just make stuff up as they go along. But let me keep reading about this great multitude. It said that in verse 9. Let me read verse 9 again. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man can number, out of all nations and kindreds and peoples and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes, and palm in their hands. Remember I told you to remember clothed with white robes? Remember earlier in the chapter before, it said that those that were slain were given white robes? Well, these guys have the white robes. The 144,000 do not have the white robes. Now, listen to this conversation that one of the 24 elders has with John. Verse 13. And one of the elders asked John, saying, What are these which are arrayed in white robes, and whence came they? So this elder's asking John. He already knows the answer. I don't know why he's asking him, but he's asking him, who are these guys in the white robes? Now remember, it's the great multitude that has the white robes, not the Israelites. And John said in verse 14, Sir, thou knowest. And the elder said to John, now listen to what he said. These are they which came out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes, and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore are they before the throne of God, and serve him day and night in his temple. And he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. Now listen to this. This is what these guys endured. Sometimes we read things and we just think it applies to everybody. But these are the things that these in the white robes endured. Verse 16. They shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more, neither shall the sun light on them, nor any heat. For the Lamb which is in the midst of the throne shall feed them, and shall lead them unto living fountains of water, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. Notice in verse 16, it said that they shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more, neither shall the sun light on them, nor any heat. In other words, this is what they endured. They endured, and they said that God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. That's how bad it was. That's how bad those that went through the great tribulation, the stuff they have to endure. Now, if we're living close to that age, it could be our age, it could be 100 years from now, or 200 years. But if we live through that age, we have to expect, if we're going to go through the great tribulation, this is how severe the persecution is going to be by the beast system. And I'm going to stop there, because the seventh seal leads to the trumpets. And I want to reiterate, the seven seals are not the wrath of the Lamb. The seventh seal is the persecution that the Antichrist and the beast system does against the believers. If we don't understand that, we're going to be like many pre-trib people thinking that we're going to escape. But I think I made it very clear that the Gentiles are going to go through. And if you're going to go through, it's going to be tough. Many of them are going to be slain. Some are going to be die of hunger and thirst. Some with the beasts of the field. And with that, I'll close the sixth seal. And next week we'll do the seventh seal and the seven trumpets.